Thragg's decision to conceal the remaining Viltrumites on Earth and rebuild their population in secret appears, on the surface, to be a calculated act of preservation. Faced with near extinction, he chooses adaptation over annihilation. Yet this choice contains a deep and unavoidable contradiction. By ensuring the biological survival of his people, Thragg sets in motion the irreversible collapse of everything that once defined them as a civilization. The Viltrumites will endure, but only as something fundamentally different from what they were. To understand why this decision is so consequential, it is necessary to consider what being Viltrumite truly means. Their identity has never been rooted solely in their immense power, longevity, or genetic superiority. Rather, it is anchored in a rigid, almost dogmatic ideology. Strength above all, the elimination of weakness, emotional detachment, and an unwavering belief in their right, their duty, to conquer and rule lesser species.
I am from Viltrum, but it's not the planet I've told you about.
Go now and remember Argal's words.
All is ours!
By the time I was born, Viltrum was already the greatest empire in our galaxy.
Viltrumite culture is not flexible. It is absolutist. It demands constant reinforcement through violence, hierarchy, and domination. Without these elements, it cannot sustain itself. This is precisely why Earth represents such a profound threat, not to Viltrumite life, but to Viltrumite identity. Nolan's time on Earth serves as the clearest and most crucial case study. When he first arrived, he was the perfect embodiment of Viltrumite ideology, disciplined, ruthless, and utterly convinced of his mission. His life among humans was initially a performance, a disguise worn to facilitate eventual conquest. But over time, that performance became reality. His relationships, especially with his family, introduced him to something entirely alien to Viltrumite culture: genuine emotional attachment. He did not simply learn to mimic empathy, he began to feel it. That shift, subtle at first, eventually shattered his certainty.
Why do I care about them?
I'm gonna shower.
Not so fast. Come here first.
Come on, Mark!
Go!
Go, Mark, go! Come on, buddy, you can do it!
Mark, go, Mark!
Why did you make me do this? You're fighting so you can watch everyone around you die! Don't understand! I'm not supposed to feel this way! How is this better?
Conquered hundreds of planets, brought glory to the Empire. You were one of our greatest warriors.
If it means anything, I'm sorry for all the suffering I caused here.
The same warrior who once viewed humanity as expendable came to see them as individuals with value. He questioned his past, felt guilt for his actions, and ultimately rejected the very system that created him. Nolan's transformation is not an anomaly. It is evidence. It proves that Viltrumite ideology is not as indestructible as it claims to be. It can be eroded, not through force, but through exposure to alternative ways of living. Thragg's plan guarantees that this erosion will not be an isolated incident, but a widespread and generational phenomenon. By embedding Viltrumites within human society, he forces them into prolonged contact with a culture built on fundamentally different principles. Humans value cooperation over domination, emotional bonds over detachment, and moral reflection over blind obedience. Even if Viltrumites attempt to maintain their traditions in secret, they cannot fully isolate themselves from these influences.
How did a mere moment on Earth turn you into a weak, sentimental traitor?
We will live among you. Wear your clothes. Walk your streets.
That planet and its people are toxic if they could do this to you. They too will pay.
To live among humans is to engage with them, to form relationships, to participate in communities, to experience loss, love, and connection. These experiences are not superficial. They reshape perspective at the deepest level. Over time, the strict Viltrumite worldview will begin to fracture. A Viltrumite who forms a family cannot easily embrace the idea that weakness should be purged, especially if that weakness exists in someone they love. A Viltrumite who experiences compassion cannot fully return to the cold calculus of conquest. Each deviation may seem small in isolation, but collectively they represent the slow unraveling of an entire cultural framework. This transformation becomes even more pronounced when considering the next generation. The children of these hidden Viltrumites will not be raised on Viltrum, nor will they be indoctrinated through the brutal trials that once defined adulthood in their society. Instead, they will grow up immersed in human culture.
You're half Viltrumite, son, and you're getting older. Things are gonna start to change for you in a few...
Who's that?
This is your little brother.
Their education, their friendships, and their moral development will all be shaped by human norms. They may inherit Viltrumite strength, but they will not inherit Viltrumite identity in its original form. In many ways, this mirrors Mark's own struggle. As a human Viltrumite hybrid, he embodies what it means to live between these two worlds. Unlike pure Viltrumites, he questions the assumption that power justifies domination. He feels sympathy rather than apathy. If future generations resemble him more than they resemble Thragg, then the outcome is inevitable. The Viltrumite Empire will not be reborn. It will be replaced by something entirely new. There is also a structural issue at the heart of Thragg's plan. Viltrumite society depended on visibility and enforcement. Their hierarchy was maintained through constant displays of strength, ritualized combat, and the systematic elimination of those deemed unworthy. On Earth, none of this is possible.
We will not influence, affect, aid, or endanger Earth in any way.
The need for secrecy imposes restraint, and restraint undermines ideology. A system that cannot be practiced cannot be preserved. Over time, its rules become abstract, then irrelevant, and finally forgotten. Even if some Viltrumites attempt to uphold the old ways in isolation, they will lack the institutional support that once sustained them. There will be no empire, no shared culture reinforced across a population, only scattered individuals clinging to traditions that no longer fit their reality. In such conditions, cultural continuity breaks down. What remains is not a civilization, but fragments of one. Thragg has started the end of the Viltrumites as we know them. He presents his plan as such. The Viltrumites will live among humans, but remain separate, waiting for the right moment to assert dominance again. Yet the very conditions required for this plan to succeed, coexistence, secrecy, restraint, are incompatible with the aggressive, expansionist nature of Viltrumite culture.
You have to move away from the normal life with me and get used to being something more.
I love my boring, powerless, everyday run-of-the-mill mom.
To survive, they must abandon conquest. To remain hidden, they must suppress their dominance. To coexist, they must tolerate and eventually understand those they once sought to subjugate. In other words, survival demands transformation. And transformation in this context is indistinguishable from destruction. Thragg has done something that not even Thaedus could accomplish. The Viltrumites will not be destroyed by a superior enemy, a virus, or be wiped out in a final battle. Instead, they are undone by their own attempt to endure. Their greatest strength, their adaptability and resilience, becomes the mechanism of their cultural extinction. By choosing to live, they choose to change. By choosing to change, they cease to be what they were.
In order for our people to reach their full potential, we had to remove the weak from our society.
Thragg's decision may still lead to a future where beings of Viltrumite descent exist in great numbers, integrated into human society, perhaps even acting as protectors rather than conquerors. But this future bears little resemblance to the empire that once spanned many planets. The old ideals, absolute strength, merciless hierarchy, and unquestioned domination, will not survive the transition. They will be replaced by values shaped by empathy, coexistence, and moral complexity. Thus, the fall of the Viltrumites is not marked by the destruction of their bodies, but by the dissolution of their identity. It is a quiet, gradual end, one that unfolds not on battlefields, but in homes, relationships, and the inner lives of individuals who begin to feel what they were once taught to ignore. Thragg believes he is saving his people. In reality, he is ensuring that the Viltrumites, as they once were, will never exist again.